Lowe's knows when you're looking for reliability, the right brand makes all the difference. And now, Lowe's is the exclusive home improvement retailer for the Whirlpool water treatment line, including their Wi-Fi softener, under-sink filtration system, and more. With Whirlpool's proven performance and our everyday low prices, better tasting, better quality water is within reach. Shop pro-trusted brands like Whirlpool and more, in-store or online. Lowe's, we help, you save.
Hey folks, and welcome to Typology, the show on which we explore the mystery of the human personality and the mystery of the great human adventure, all through the lens of the Enneagram. My name is Anthony Skinner, your producer and co-host. So happy to have you here today, folks. Hey, we've got a great guest, Alicia Michelle. She is an ICF certified Christian life coach, neuro coach, and author of the brand new book, Emotional Confidence. We're going to cover that book today in the podcast, as well as she is host of the award-winning podcast, The Christian Mindset Coach. We are also on today's podcast covering something really cool. Alicia has always identified as a type 3. Turns out she took Ian's assessment and she is a type 1. It made so much sense. She's been trying to fit into a type 3 personality to make sense out of her world. But now that she realizes she's a 1, all the dots are connecting. And we talked today about being a 1 in relation to her work, in relation to her husband, and in relation to her children. So this is a really great episode. You're going to love it. We get into her book as well, Emotional Confidence. You're going to love that. Hey, that's it for me, Anthony Skinner. And now, without any further ado, here's the man of the hour, Ian Cron.
Well, Typology friends, welcome back. And today, man, we got a rich conversation with my friend, Alicia Michelle, Enneagram One. You heard all the wonderful things that she's been doing at the top end of the show, so I need not go into detail. Alicia, welcome to Typology.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much.
So, we met recently when I was on your podcast, The Christian Mindset Coach. And so I've been stoked to having you on Typology.
Yeah.
And I know that your journey with the Enneagram, right, has been, well, just that, right? A journey. Mm-hmm. So let's start by hearing a little bit about your experience with the Enneagram and how you first learned about it and what drew you to explore it more deeply.
I think I first heard about it maybe 5 or 7 years ago. I think it was kind of trendy. People were learning about the Enneagram, and I've always been interested in psychology, obviously working as a coach, that sort of thing. That stuff interests me. And I first, and for a long time, thought that I was a type 3 because of the desire to achieve, the desire to get it right in that way. And yet it was so interesting when I took your test that was not what I was. I was a 1. And I was like, what? No, this can't be right. But the more that I thought about it and the more I realized it, the more I was just like, yeah, that makes sense, because there's a lot about 3s that for me didn't line up, but they do with a 1. So I think it's been an evolving journey, but now that I've finally landed on what I really am, it's been really encouraging to see how it does answer a lot of questions that we have in relationships and how we can understand ourselves better.
Yeah. This is a very common journey. And I think most people think when they start to work with the Enneagram, it's like, well, I'm going to take a test. The test will be definitive and authoritative. I will come out, it will spit out an answer, and it will be, scientifically proven, empirically, evidence-based, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But the journey of self-discovery is often, and I think sometimes preferably, a process over time, right? I went through a long season of thinking I was one type, and it took a long time before I really landed on my type. But what I learned on the journey was invaluable. I wouldn't have traded that time for anything, So when people tell me I'm not sure about my type yet, or I think I might, I'm like, great, that's all part of it. That's just part of the deal. So sitting with being with a 1, when this happened recently. So what's it been like for you, just sitting with this idea that, maybe I'm a 1?
Yeah. At first I fought it a lot because I thought, the ones are those people who are super perfectionistic and they have to follow the rules. And then I really realized, okay, that's you. That's how you were from the beginning, Alicia. Right?
That's crazy.
Right? Because
That's so great.
I thought, oh, they're so strict. And I don't consider myself really that strict, but I realized like the ideas of wanting to achieve, of wanting to get it right, that is very much a 1, but I was seeing it through a 3 lens. And I think the people pleasing stuff makes a lot more sense to me now because I'm really good at reading a room, reading personalities, seeing people where they're at, and just adapting to it. And it's not something I do consciously, but it's just how I've always been. And so I now realize that that wasn't necessarily a 3 trait. That was just me having this such a strong desire to know the rules and to know if I do this, then I'm following the rules. If I achieve or if I get things right, then I make other people happy. And so it's just been this really huge light bulb for me to see like, that's why. Because for me, like the number 3 ones, the type 3 ones, that I don't relate to the fact of being someone who puts on a front. I'm not someone who's trying to be false. And I know that's part of what a 3 is. And so it was freeing to me. I'm like, because that never made sense to me. But now it was just all of the things I was doing is really part of following the rules and trying to be safe through it.
Yes. Well, when you fail or make a mistake, do you feel more ashamed, like, oh, I'm not valuable anymore, or more guilty and angry, like I did something wrong, I should have done something better?
I feel ashamed with other people because I've let them down and I've somehow shown them that I wasn't perfect, I think. But I feel angry at myself that I should have known. I should have been able to fix that. I should have been able to predict that. And it's interesting because I feel like I've come a long way in this. But when there is that added stress of something new, I find myself being put in situations where I'm trying to protect myself from making a mistake. So, for example, I'm planning an international retreat right now. We're leaving in 3 weeks. And the other day, I just felt so much stress about it. And I was like, why? It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. But I was realizing it's that same thing that I'm trying to overcompensate so that I don't disappoint anyone, so that I don't have to deal with that. But I'm never going to be able to fully control it. So it shows up now in those little things, and which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what has your historical relationship with anger been like?
Well, I have always squashed it down and not let it come out. That's pretty much how I've dealt with it. As I went through, obviously, an understanding of my emotions, and there's a whole story of that, and written a book on emotions, I have learned to see that anger is okay, but it's still not comfortable at all for me. In fact, like in relationships, it's much more comfortable for me to just keep it inside and not express it. Because again, for me, it somehow says like, I've made a mistake and that's why I'm angry, or I just need to fix it so that they won't be angry. I don't know. It has to do with shame and that connection for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, ones repress anger, right? They push it down. In part because they feel like anger is an inappropriate emotion. And of course, ones want to be good.
Yeah.
They just want to be good. And they want to avoid mistakes, blame, being found faulty, being corrupt or evil. Sometimes ones will talk in that kind of language. Like, I'm worried about that. I want to do the right thing in every situation. And so for them, anger feels a little out of control, and ones tend to be very contained. Like they get around people who are big with emotions and there's stuff like this. And ones are like, that doesn't feel entirely appropriate to me. Like, it's like, you should be a little bit more controlled and contained. Right. And so anger feels to them like, I need to push that down and not let that thing out of the bag.
It does. It feels like an embarrassment, I think. Like, I don't feel like, I don't feel like I purposely am trying to repress it or that I can't have big emotions, because I do. I'm fine with big emotions. But like, for example, if there's heightened stress or hormones or other things happening, perimenopause, right? The other day I told my husband, I'm sorry for being grouchy. And I truly felt embarrassed to even say that, to even admit that I guess it's that I'm not perfect. I don't know what it is. It's that admit that I'm not able to figure out how to get in full control of all of these ups and downs that I'm feeling at this exact moment. And it's come out in this relationship. And so to me, that's more embarrassing and more of a shame thing on I should have, right? That's where that dialogue starts to come in. And so I have to really work to not let that become who I am in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fine with it. He's like, okay, thank you for saying that. But he's totally
what
fine
type
with it.
is he? Is he a 9?
5.
Oh, he's a 5. Okay.
Yes. So deep thinking. Yeah. Process everything internally.
Yeah. That thing about sometimes for ones, it's very hard. Okay. This is when a one's not healthy. I'm not talking about you. So I'm just talking about ones in a not very healthy space. A one in a not very healthy space has trouble admitting fault. Right? They're afraid of being found blameworthy, faulty.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of, but when they're not doing well, this is terrible. This is not going to feel good. You ready?
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, well, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about unhealthy ones.
Okay. All right.
When a one is not very healthy, sometimes there's kind of a pleasure taken in seeing someone else make a mistake.
Okay. Yes.
It's inside.
Yes.
Because it gives them a sense of relief that other people aren't perfect either.
Okay. No, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. But I always tell them, listen, don't be too hard on yourself. That's called relief. You're experiencing relief that that you're not perfect. Oh, and guess what? Neither is anybody else.
Right.
So
true.
But that practice of naming when you've done something wrong and then having someone go, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like the more you do that as a one, the better you'll be. It'll just become okay. Like you're going to normalize making mistakes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And realize that it's survivable. Right.
Right. And for me, the compassion side has been really helpful because I had zero compassion for myself for a very long time because of the mistakes.
Tell me more.
Well, when I would make a mistake, again, I was being led by such a strict rule-oriented, you know what to do, why don't you just follow the rules? A plus B should equal C, why aren't you just doing that? So if I made a mistake, then it was just, I have no compassion for you. You knew what you needed to do. Why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you do it the right way? That kind of a voice. And so knowing, as a person of faith, knowing that God sees me in my brokenness, and he comes next to me, puts his arm around me and says, I see it and you're going to be okay. Let me show you a different way to respond to this. I'm not angry at you for this. I want to help you through it. Having that compassion for myself and from God has helped me so much because it's not that instant response of, well, you should have known, you should have been different. And why didn't you change that? So it's a big part of the journey.
Yeah, you're bringing up you're giving us a nice little education on what the inside of a one head sounds like sometimes, which is that prosecutor in the mind that can be kind of unrelenting at times. And, I remember one of my earliest teachers with the Enneagram said, that voice in your head is not your friend. And I believed that for a while, but as a therapist, it never quite sat well with me. And then I was like, arguing with that is pointless.
Yep.
Just arguing with that inner critic is pointless. And I like how internal family systems has really helped me because when my inner critic gets going and it's not as loud or as ever present as it is for ones, I'm able to look at it and go, okay, this is a part of me.
Yes.
And this part actually is doing this because it believes that it's helping me.
Right. Yep.
But it's probably a very young part of me because it's been around a long time. Right. And it believes that the struggles that I'm facing currently are the same that I was facing way back then, when it started. And it's just trying to protect me. It thinks that by criticizing me over criticizing me, being unkind toward me, is somehow or another going to protect me from something. And when I do that, I just kind of relax. I kind of warm toward it, and I'm like, "Hey, it's okay. I got this.
Definitely.
I know it was a mistake. It's all good. I got this."
Right.
You know, but it takes a minute to get there.
It does, but you're completely right. That has been so helpful for me to separate out that this voice is not my enemy. This voice is someone who's trying to help me, and it's not helpful to have it into that extreme, but I can be the wiser, bigger person of myself and see what it's trying to do, and how that was a way I protected myself before, was just trying to make sure everything was the way it needed to be. And that's not the rule I need to live by anymore, that I have grace,
Right.
I have compassion, I have forgiveness, and that I can do my very best, but that there's space around me, if it doesn't work out, for things still to be good. Because I think that's the lie.
Yeah.
We want to believe if it's only good, if it is perfect, if it all works out this way. And like I said, I find myself kind of down this rabbit trail before I realize I'm there. And then I'm like, why am I so upset and just like kind of feeling really anxious about something specific? And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is what I've been listening to, and I have to help myself unwind from that and get to a different reality again.
So what you're talking about, and a lot of our listeners will know this word, some will not, right? But what you're talking about is metacognitive or thinking, right? Like metacognition. In other words, humans have an ability to think about their thinking. This is a very unusual thing, right? Like squirrels are not.
I was going to say, I think we're the only ones that can, right?
Yeah, but bears, squirrels, no, they're just living at the at the level of instinct, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we have the ability to stand back from our present moment experience, to observe our own thinking, to interrogate it, to challenge it, to negotiate with it, and to have feelings towards it.
Yes.
This is very, very powerful stuff. Did you grow up in a lot of chaos?
Yes. Well, okay, yes and no. I grew up in a very controlled, emotionally family. Like, they never talked about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when things did come out, it was hold it back, explode all over, everywhere, everything. And so for me, it was chaotic in that I didn't know what that side of the rules were, if that makes sense. I just, it was very unsettling from that point of view.
Did you have a lot of leadership?
Leadership in what way?
Were you left alone to your own devices to figure out how to live life more than a kid probably should have been left alone to figure it out on their own?
Maybe. I feel like I was questioned about a lot of things, because I was raised by parents who were using fear to try to keep everything in control. And they were dealing with a lot of anxiety. And so that was how they tried to control me. So when they saw that I was pretty good following the rules, it was kind of like, oh, well, she's fine. Because there were other members of my family who were not always doing the right thing and going off the rails a little bit. So it was like, well, she's got it, so she's fine. So I do feel like in the beginning it was highly controlled, but as soon as they saw, oh, this is a good kid who does what she's supposed to do, we need to focus on this other one. I do feel like there was a lot of like, hey, I'm still over here kind of stuff that I wish there was more leadership in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes think the inner critic arises sometimes in people for once. And by the way, it's very interesting. You used the word control about 6 times in your last little clip of speaking. And of course, mastery and control are big issues for 8, 9s, and 1s. Self-control for a 1 is very important. Mastery over self.
Yes.
And if you grow up where there's not a lot of leadership or consistency, sometimes I think we develop an inner critic who hops on board as almost like an online coach parent.
Yeah, makes sense.
That is always there going, do this, don't do that. Oh, you shouldn't have done. And it's almost like our little brain says, I need a parent.
That's
I need a parent.
Yeah.
And up comes this not very nurturing parent, unfortunately, right?
Right.
It's actually just a drill sergeant,
right,
right? To keep you safe, and so sometimes I'll ask, and sometimes ones will just say, actually, I was just actually raised by ones too. Sometimes they'll be like, they were highly controlled. I have a friend of mine who says, I grew up with a German mother who was a hardcore one, and she just lives in my head still. She's been dead for 20 years, and she lives in my head.
Yeah.
She's still telling me, go left, go right, sit down, stand up. It's like,
Yes.
So, just learning to deal with these parts of ourselves is so important, right? And to do it with love and compassion and kindness. Yeah. Hey friends, the Enneagram is a remarkably powerful tool for improving relationships. Whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, understanding the people around you is critical to building better relationships. The Enneagram provides a framework for understanding different perspectives and communication styles. Imagine knowing why your colleague reacts defensively in meetings or why your partner needs space when they're stressed. Understanding these dynamics helps you navigate both your inner world and your relationships with more empathy, patience, and compassion. It's like having a cheat sheet for human behavior. Don't know your type? Well, find out today with my new Typology Institute Enneagram Assessment at typologyinstitute.com/assessment. And be sure to enter the discount code Typology Podcast on the checkout page to take 10% off your assessment. Go to typologyinstitute.com/assessment. So you've written this new book, Emotional Confidence, right? I love the title.
Thank you.
And give us the premise of the book. And we're going to weave some Enneagram stuff in here because I'm really, really excited to talk about this idea of emotional governance, good emotional governance.
Right. Yeah, the book came out last November. It's a book about how to have tools to be able to manage what we're feeling well. And I am someone, I guess you can probably guess as a type 1, I like there to be practical resources. I like to know what that means, not just for someone to say, well, just get over it or just give it to God, as sometimes people say in the faith community. And how do I do that? How do I process it? I don't want to just let it control my life, but I don't also want to let logic not be part of the conversation. I need to have both sides of it. So what does that look like to walk through an emotion? And so it's based on this 3-step method that I have created through coaching and have been able to teach it to tens of thousands. It's called the ADD method. And it's a 3-part program that we can talk about if you want to. But the purpose of it is to give people tools so that they can feel something and not run from it, but to be able to experience it and work through it and let it grow them through it and have a calm, logical response that honors both the emotion and the thought and the logic behind it. So that's the purpose of the book. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Walk me through it.
The method itself, the ADD method?
Yeah. Walk me through the method.
Yeah. So it is 3 parts. It's the A stands for acknowledge, the D stands for discern, and the other D is for decide. So acknowledge, interestingly, we were talking about compassion. This is the step where we say, it makes sense. It makes sense why I'm feeling this way because. So this is where we're acknowledging it. We're having compassion for it. We're seeing it without judgmental eyes. We're just seeing it for what it is, almost like a scientist. And we are leaning into that compassionate side of us, whether if we're a faith person, if that's from God, or just knowing what compassion means in our own heart, having compassion for ourselves. The first D is to discern. And so then after we've felt it, we've seen it, we had compassion for it, now we can put it through that logical lens and say, it is true that this, but it's not true, this. So we're sorting out the lies. We're opening the door as if we were in like a closet, and we're pulling out all the junk in there that isn't supposed to be there. We're recognizing this needs to stay, but this isn't what we need to carry anymore. Then that last D is decide. So we've seen it, we've had compassion for it, we've seen what the truth is. Now what do we do with this? So what's the next best step with this? And so whatever that is, that would be the step we would take. And the second half of it is, where will I emotionally dwell? So where will I let my heart sit? Because we can have an anxious thought, for example, and go through and, I can see it, I see the truth, and this is what I'm going to do about it, but then we can go right back to the anxiety. So where are we committing to sit in as we're making that decision to move forward? So it's a really simple tool. I think it's easy to kind of walk through in a minute. You can use it in the moment, or you can use it for a bigger issue to help you process. But that's the tool: acknowledge, discern, and decide.
Yeah. Again, this requires, though, that people have the capacity and the practice of knowing how to turn inward and do the work. And what I find is, and I'm always surprised at how many people are unskilled in that area, right? Like they have an emotion, it runs through them, they're moving on to the next thing. There's no pause. Right. So years ago, a long time ago, so this is 15, 20 years ago, I started to do a lot of reading among Western Buddhist psychologists. So this is 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so this is not Buddhism as a religion per se, but more as a philosophy of the mind.
Okay.
Right? And actually, they're the ones who get this right. They really do. They get this right. It's something that we should, and you're taking hold of it. I've taken hold of it. In the road back to you, I talked about SNAP, right? Stop, notice, ask, pivot. When a difficult emotion arises, we stop. Then we notice it, right? With a non-judgmental gaze. It's just noticing.
Right.
What's here right now? Oh, anxiety is here. I rarely say to myself, oh, I'm anxious. What I try to say to myself is, oh, look, anxiety is here.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I don't over-identify with the feeling, right? I'm not anxious, just anxiety is here. I'm Ian Cron. I'm a child of God. Here I am, right? Anxious? No, but anxiety is here. It's here.
Right.
And then to your point, for me, then it would be to ask questions to the anxiety. Well, why is the anxiety here? What can I do for you? What do you need? And then so forth and so on. And I actually just got this all from Western Buddhist psychologists.
Interesting.
Who I thought really nailed this process down. And I've seen it in lots of different iterations along the way. There's another one, RAIN, right? Recognize, allow, inquire, nurture. That's another one. And I love ADD, right? I love any of these things that help people to sort through what's going on inside in such a way that they are exercising good self-leadership.
True.
Right? Because that's where people get in trouble, is when they lose the role of being their internal leader.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's the bigger issue that needs to happen even before we use whatever method to be able to process. Two things. I think we need to be willing to notice and to look at it, and to recognize first that it's okay, that it's possible, because I think a lot of people don't open it up because they're like, okay, so I feel anxious. So what am I supposed to do with that? I don't even know what to do with that. Or they're just running so fast they don't even recognize that this is what they're feeling. Like you said, they're just responding, or it's not safe for them to be that way because they've been told, well, it's not okay. I should just get through it, or whatever dialogue is going on. So we first have to just have, like you said, the leadership of ourself to notice what's going on and to be okay with sitting in it. And that's why I think tools are helpful, because then people can at least give themselves the ability to know, all right, here's a path I can take when I have this and when I receive this. So that's the very first thing people will ask me. What's the first, if I'm feeling this way, what do I do with this? Learn how to notice, learn to be okay with seeing it. The other thing is learning how to be in the right side of our nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system versus the parasympathetic. Sympathetic, of course, Ian, you know this, but sympathetic being fight or flight, the parasympathetic being the rest and digest, the more logical, calm side of our mind. So if we are already feeling an emotion and already feeling upset, it's so helpful before we even begin to try to use a logical tool like ADD to find calm. What are ways that we can turn on that parasympathetic nervous system so that we are able to think logically and work through the process?
Yeah. So just to give people an example, right? I had an experience recently where I was really angry about something. And so anger came up. And I have some spiritual practices that have taught me over the years how to slow down and to pay attention to what my body is saying, right? So the body says, I'm angry and my heart rate is going, I'm agitated, cortisol, whatever's running through my bloodstream, I've got a rapid brain going, my brain is going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. To just sit down and take a few deep breaths and just have the feeling of anger. Just have it. Like, don't,
right.
Just go, oh yeah, so anger's here. So here it is. It's survivable. It's doable. Let's just sit with the anger. Yeah. And I think that's what you're talking about when you talk about acknowledge, right? Anger is here right now, In an hour from now, maybe not. But right now, anger is here, right? And I love, by the way, too, there's a poem by the German poet Rilke, and he has a line in the poem where he says, no feeling is final.
That's cool.
And I share that with clients a lot, listen, anger is here, but just remember, no feeling is final. It's just right now. It's here. Yeah. So I get through that. And then you said we go to the movement of discern. So I've got this anger, right, over something that someone said to me. I felt hurt. I felt angry. I felt outraged. I felt, all the stuff. Now what do I have to do? I have to discern. So I'm actually using a real life example here with you. So what do I do next?
I think at that point, for discern, you would say, you've discovered why it made sense that you're angry, right? This is going on and this is making me frustrated. So what is the truth that's hidden inside of that frustration? Because a lot of times when we're in that frustration, we can spin all sorts of tales about what is really happening or what could happen or what they're thinking or all the things. And so if we can just begin to separate out, it's true that they did this or they said this or this happened, but is it true that I'm never going to get past this or we're never going to work through this or whatever the truth that isn't true is? It can be a deeper moral question of, is it true that it's a reflection of me? Because so many times this stuff triggers deeper stuff in us. It's not true that this has to do with my career and that it's going to ruin my career, whatever other things might be under there. It is true that I am secure in who I am. You can just start to separate that out so that it's not just the emotion that we're feeling, because inside that emotion there is a nugget of truth causing it, but what is the truth that is actually true versus the truth that we're telling ourselves? Right. And sorting that out before we make a decision. Mm-hmm. A lot of people I've found, interestingly, a lot of people in the church that I've found go straight to discern. They skip the acknowledge and they just want to tell me what to do. Tell me what's right or wrong. Tell me what I need to the truth so that I can handle this. And the compassion part of acknowledge is so important because this allows us to have the sometimes harsh reality of truth shown to us. Because we've been nourished and sat in that compassion of it. It's like you said, it's not final. I can look at truth and say, yeah, you know what? You're right. I do need to admit that. I do need to say this to that person instead. We can begin to soften our response, whereas before it would have just been okay, I'm just accepting it as once again, I'm bad, or I'm just going to respond in this very black or white way. So it's an interesting process, how those work together, I think.
Yes. And it requires energy to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people just don't want to expend the energy. They just want to get through it.
True.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And what they really want is symptom relief.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
They just don't want to have a felt bodily experience of shame or anger or sadness. They just don't want the felt experience of it.
They want to get to the fruit, the end of it, where it's all better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And then in the process, they leave important things on the table. Mm-hmm. Right? They leave important treasures on the table that they could walk away with otherwise.
Right. Yes. And again, this doesn't have to be for everyone who is of a certain faith or not. But for me as a faith person, that journey from acknowledge to discern to decide is a holy one. It's an invitation to invite God in to help me grow as I look at these things, to ask for his wisdom. And is there a truth here that I'm not seeing? Because there usually is. And how can I trust you to have courage to make this decision? It's a faith journey for me to go through that process.
I love that. Okay, so when you talk about emotional literacy in the book, it's being a foundational part of like emotional confidence, right?
Yes.
Why is emotional literacy so important? Define it for me and tell me why it's so important to our well-being.
Well, emotional literacy is just being able to express what we're feeling, being able to say, this is what I'm feeling, and I can talk about it. I love the quote that I used in the book from Brene Brown, where she said, not having emotional literacy is like going to a doctor with your hands tied behind your back and something strapped over your mouth and trying to explain to him what your symptoms are. You can't express what's going on if you don't have the tools to be able to do that. So emotional literacy is important for relationships, for knowing ourselves. I mean, it's the foundation for so many things. Emotional confidence, how I define it, is the ability to assertively or confidently look at those things and know, I know how to deal with it. I know what to do. I may not have all the answers on everything, but at least I can have some ideas of, here's where I'm going to start, here's where I'm going to go, and I'm not afraid of emotions. I'm not just going to keep pushing it down or having more chocolate or whatever the thing is, or running to drugs or alcohol. I'm not doing that because I'm okay with dealing with it. I know that it's all right.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. In the 12-step world, what you're describing is called emotional sobriety. And we talk about in the 12-step world, physical sobriety, which is just not, eating a pound of chocolate or drinking or taking a drug, right? So you have physical sobriety, abstinence. But then emotional sobriety is what you're describing. And in Buddhism, they call it equanimity. Equanimity is a great word. And I wish I wish I would go to church someday and whoever was preaching, the man or the woman who was preaching would say, we're talking about equanimity today. And I would literally join that church right then and there. Because I have never heard a sermon on it. It's such a great word. It means the ability to maintain emotional balance in the face of whatever life throws at you. So it's just equanimity. Mm-hmm. It's just even the word sounds what it means, right?
Exactly.
It's just a peaceful word. Yeah. It's like, okay, you just pissed me off, but it's not throwing me off the beam.
Right.
It's not, you know what I mean? It's not throwing me to the floor. I am here. I am grounded. One of the images that the Buddhists use that I love is, it was like a plumb line in when sailors used to try and figure out how deep the water was, they would drop a plumb line. It was a weight. And there was like on a line, and they would keep dropping it until they could figure out how deep the water was. But if you can imagine, the surface of the ocean is just crazy waves. It's a hurricane on the surface, right? But if you drop the plumb line in and you go about 50 feet down, guess what? It's completely calm under there. It's completely calm.
Interesting. Yeah.
All you have to do is go 50 feet down. So many of us just live on the surface of the ocean all day long, and we're thrown around on the wind and the waves, right? And emotionally thrown around into everything, right? We're just a bottle of, reactivity. But when you think of that plumb line 50 feet down, that's what I want my inner world to feel like. So that everything can be going crazy in the world, emotions can be flying around inside me, but I have this kind of grounded center. And I think what ADD does, what SNAP, what RAIN, that other acronym I mentioned, all of these little tools are wonderful tools for helping us sort of live in that place of equanimity and calm. Just steadiness.
Right.
And Lord knows, in this culture and in this world, the one thing we need right now are more people with deep plumb lines.
Right. Yes.
Because most people are on the surface just being thrown around emotionally.
Running a business online? Look legit and own your own brand with professional tools from GoDaddy. Instantly build trust with your customers and boost your credibility with an email that matches your domain, so people know you mean business. There's never been a better time. Just go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and choose from a wide variety of popular domains to find one that's right for you. Pair that with a professional email that works for all your business needs, from daily communications to email marketing and everything in between. That's a little price for a lot of credibility. For a limited time, get a domain and matching professional email for just 99 cents a month for 1 year. Go to GoDaddy.com/GD now and look legit with GoDaddy. That's GoDaddy.com/GD now. Again, GoDaddy.com/GD now. There's never been a better time to choose the domain and email that's right for you. New customer purchases only. Products auto-renew separately. See terms on site. GoDaddy.com/GD now.
You ever feel that deep pull to the land, to know it, to build something that lasts, that itch for your own wild country? Well, it ain't just a daydream. In 2025, it matters more than ever. Whether you're a lifelong hunter or just starting out, dreaming of land to explore, to leave something real, or there is a trailhead where you can start. It's called land.com, the biggest online network for rural property. Find the right agent and explore everything from timber tracts to ranches. Get the tools you need to buy that dream generational property. Stop dreaming about it and head to land.com. It's your place to find your open space.
When we have that centeredness, that solidity inside of us, the waves can come and we're anchored already deeper down and we know the calm. So I think the other thing too is that we can expect the waves to be there. I think sometimes we're shocked that there's waves. There's going to be waves.
Oh yeah.
Just expect them. Stop being surprised and reactive to all of the waves. Find your anchor.
Yep.
Learn how to work through the waves, which is, again, tools like ADD can be helpful for that. Learn how to work through the waves, but stop letting the waves run you over and drain you and you're just moving all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think different Enneagram types will have a different experience of this ADD thing?
I think so. I think maybe it would be harder. I would love your thoughts on this, actually. I think it would be harder for some of them, perhaps if they have a harder time thinking about their emotions or working through their feelings. Like maybe they might naturally be more closed off. Is that true with some types?
Yes. And I say it cautiously because there are always outliers.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your husband for a second. He's a 5.
Yes.
Does he use this ADD model in his own life?
Oh, I don't think so. Because, you know why? Because if he does, I don't know about it. Everything is inside of him. And I say that in the most loving way. The man is very deep, but we always joke he's like Darth Vader. Like, oh, that's great. He has the same face response to all of his reactions. And so I am sure, I know he's a very emotional person, but I don't know if he doesn't outwardly process it in a way that
Alicia,
I would recognize.
Stop asking me to acknowledge.
I know. Yeah. He probably. Yeah. No, we always joke about that. Even our kids are, now that they're getting older and they're like, does dad ever respond? And one of my other kids, okay, so this is funny. I won't name the children, but 2 of them just came back from a trip to Japan. And these 2 don't really hang out much because there's a big age difference. And, the older one said, oh my gosh, like we would go to these places and I would be like, this is amazing. Isn't this so cool? And he'd be like, yeah, it's great. Having a good time. And I'm like, that's your dad, right? That's how he is. And he's like, yeah. So it's happening in our house too and other people. But I think it's interesting you went to the 5. So do you feel like the 5s would have a harder time with the emotions in general, or
not necessarily?
Yeah.
But I was just curious, given that you're married to a 5, and 5s tend to have a more muted.
Okay.
It's just they're. How would I put this? They can do a better job sometimes than other types of detaching from their emotions and observing them rather than being sucked up into them.
And a lot of times they experience their emotions like sometimes days later from an event, right? It's like they might get flooded with the feeling of something that happened 2 days prior just because it takes a while. It takes a process. It's more of a process for them, right?
That is interesting. And of course, each person, some people are going to be more emotionally in tune with themselves just in general. So that's but why? So that is interesting that they would get it later. Why do you think that
well,
is?
because sometimes a 5 has to think their way to their feelings.
Okay.
Right. And they don't like, I'm okay in a moment having a feeling, like my feelings are pretty available to me. So if something happens and I'm really deeply moved, crying in the moment, I don't have a problem with it. If it's, feeling flooded with an emotion, doesn't really overwhelm me.
Yeah.
For a 5, that is not necessarily the case, right? Like 5s don't like to be surprised by big feelings. They don't like them coming up suddenly. They'll kind of distance themselves from it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can take them a couple of days or hours or whatever to kind of work their way to it. And even when they get to it, sometimes that feeling is more muted for them than it is for other types, say a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 7. It's just more muted. And sometimes that can be read by other people as being emotionally distant or out of touch.
That's so
and
interesting.
in its most unhealthy expression, that is true. But when it is, sometimes it's just who they are, right? They're just,
That is a great word, muted. That's exactly what it is, because it's not that he doesn't have feelings or isn't interested in this or doesn't care or any of these things. I have to always have this filter on of this is how he is. It's not these other things. Again, that's where the discern part comes in. It's not these other things. This is the reality. Don't let yourself think all of that. So that's why I think the Enneagram is so helpful in relationships, because when you understand the other person, you understand this is how the filter they're using in life. And you have your own filter, you can help yourself, okay, this is what's really going on. It's not all these other things I'm thinking that it is.
Yes. So I want to go back to where we started back on the 3-1 thing.
Okay.
Right? Your energy and your style feel very one-ish to me. And that's good.
I love bad or good. I'm like, oh no. Again, see, that's a very one answer to say. Is that bad or good? I just even saying that.
Well,
right?
No.
You did say something earlier. I'll add this to what you're saying right now. Earlier, you said everybody wants to be good, right? I just try to get there by being perfect. And my thought was, I don't think about being good. It's just interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you also have but you also have a record sheet, but that's a whole other issue. So Alicia, all right. One of the things that stokes me about this story of yours, right? So you thought you were a 3 for a long time, and you took our test, right? The Enneagram assessment. And you came back as a 1, and you're feeling now, as you've been sitting with it, like, that actually feels right.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have had this is so encouraging, because I've had this experience now with multiple people, emails, friends. Okay. They were typed, as one thing, and then they took my assessment. And here's the thing, and you'll appreciate this because of your background and your appreciation for credentials, right? So the test was put together by a guy named myself and a guy named Todd Hall, Dr. Todd Hall, who is a research psychologist who does personality measurement, psychological measurement. So a guy who knows how to put tests together, right? To make them accurate, valid, and reliable. And what we're discovering as people are taking it is that it is kind of blowing people's minds, because they're like, oh my gosh, like for the longest time, I just assumed this, but now that I've read this, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm so thrilled that you took it and that it came back with this result that feels more true to you.
It does. And like I said, when I first got the results, I was kind of mad, because I thought, I don't think that's me. I think Ian got it wrong. I really did. But then I began I pulled out the book again and I looked at it and I realized I really do resonate a lot more with the one statements and how they are. And I think the things that I was feeling about being a 3 were just filtered through a 1, basically. That the achievement side was me trying to keep the rules to get approval, to feel good, to feel safe, those things. That's what it was really happening. And when you have that awareness about yourself, that this is how you're wired, you can have that emotional metacognition to look outside and to say, it's okay. It's okay. This is the area we're going towards. You don't have to go and live in this anymore. We can live over here. And I mean, that's an interesting question about different types is we do grow into these types. And so will we always feel those core elements of the type, do you find? Or is it that sometimes they don't even exist anymore? Because that's honestly why I thought I was a 3 for a long time, because when I was younger, the idea of needing to put on a front and being false was part of who I was. But then I've grown and I didn't want to be that anymore. So I thought, maybe I've just kind of grown out of that part of being a 3. But what do you think?
I think we pick up little strategies as little people for getting our needs met and for dealing with life as life has presented itself to us. Yeah. And I think you are your type for life. That doesn't mean you don't change. It just doesn't, you don't change types, but you will evolve and grow and mature within your own type. So like for you as a 1, what does maturity look like? It's being at peace with the fact that you can't be perfect and that you can't perfect others in the world. You can disburden yourself of that obligation. Now, just as I said that, your face.
I was going to say, that's the second half. It's the second half of that I don't need to make others perfect. That is the part that I am working in. Releasing
so can you tell me more about that?
We are recording this, right? No. Well, I'm just in a stage where my kids are 22, 20, 17, and 13. And so we're just seeing them launch and make decisions, and they're all great kids and they're all doing great things. But there's always that, what is my role now as a parent to try to help you? And that side of, I would have not done that. I would do it like this, And so learning to be, especially with one child, I've really had to learn, and I have gotten there a lot further than I was with, this is where this child is. And I love them where they're at. And that's fine. And I don't have to try to make them be this other thing. I can just sit here. That's okay. And I think it was last week at church, our pastor was talking about the scripture in Matthew that talks about, do not judge or you will be judged. That whole scripture, and is kind of controversial. It was a very interesting topic, but he was talking about how we can love without approving necessarily or thinking it's our way. We can still love and we can still support. It doesn't have to be perfect. In other words, to bring it back to the language we were using, for me to be in these relationships. And that's not my goal. It's not my responsibility. It's not my task. I think you become more aware of that as your kids get older and they begin to do more things. Yeah.
I think everybody is a control addict. And some people more than others. Ones typically are more controlling. At times can struggle with control, wanting to control others' behaviors, reactions, like to get them to do it the right way, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes in a 2 that shows up as codependency. In a 1, it can kind of come in as like sort of being critical or judgmental of another person's decisions. But if they're 23 years old, you just have to let them live with their decisions and not rush in to control it and fix it or rescue it or to change it or, you know. I've talked about this on the show before, but I love this little thing. When your kids are little, and you know this, but this is for our listeners, right? When your kids are little, you got to be a cop. That's what you do. You're a cop. You make sure they don't run into the street. You make sure that they don't play with knives and run with scissors and do things like that, right? Because you're just trying to keep them alive till dinner every day. That's your job, right? You're just, right? You're a cop. And then when they get to be about 13, 14, your role changes into being a coach. Now you can't be a cop. They're at school all day. They're at parties on the weekends, right? You can't be a cop in that situation. Now you have to be a coach. And then they get to about 19 and you're a consultant.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And now where parents get into trouble is if you treat an 8-year-old as a consultant, that's a kind of neglect and abuse, right?
Yeah, totally.
That kid needs a cop.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you try to be a cop with your 25-year-old,
right,
that's a bad idea too.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you talk about here is like it's these transitions into new phases of life with kids are really hard.
They are.
They're really hard. And
well, especially when you are doing multiple ages at the same time, like how we react to a 13-year-old versus a almost 23-year-old is very different. And how do you want to maintain the relationship. And so you're always like, how do I you do a lot of, that's interesting. You do a lot of that, I feel like, with the older ones, which is good. Again, I don't mean to paint it in a bad way. Our kids are doing great, but just some crazy things that may come out that they say, you're like, okay, see how that works out or how that turns out. But I have really had to be challenged with what has been my responsibility up to this point? Have I done my imperfect best to be the cop when I needed to be, to guide as a coach when I needed to be? And now as a consultant, what is my job? It's changing. And so if I can leave that just there, then I can just love them in a different way than when I was being a cop. And I don't have to try to control. It's not my responsibility to do that anymore. I got to let it go.
Yeah.
I'll jump in here too and also say this is where the Enneagram can really help in parenting. I have 3 children. One is a 7, one is a 6. My 6 comes to me for advice all the time. And some of the best advice I got related to my Enneagram 7 daughter. I have another friend who's a grown woman. She's a 7. And she said, Anthony, I always wanted to learn from making mistakes. I didn't want someone giving me advice or telling me how to do something. And it totally helped me just like loosen the grip.
Yes.
And go, okay. It's like she described, my daughter. I mean, she'd rather learn on her own by making a mistake than me, pointing out or giving the advice.
Yes.
Not that I'd never give advice, of course, but it really helped me. Okay, they're all wired very differently. They all have their own types, just like we have our types. And that's where the Enneagram really can, help you in your parenting.
You're right. That is so true. I have asked my kids to do the Enneagram testing a few times. They were really young when we did it, so I would want them to do it again before we assess. But if I was to guess, one of the children that I'm thinking of, who happens to be actually, ironically, experiencing things, he's backpacking through Europe at the moment. So he is the child who even recently has said, I just need to experience things. I've always had to be that way, Mom. So I've kind of always thought of him as a 7. So it is interesting that you mentioned that, because I do think once I've learned that about him, that he needs to just see it. It's okay. That's a tricky one as a parent, because you want to just say, listen to all this advice or wisdom. You don't have to run into that wall 5 times to know, hey, that hurts.
Exactly.
Like, just think about it.
Yes, he does.
Maybe he does.
Please let me spare you that. No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. No, not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
My kid, one of my kids, my son, who I adore, said something the other day to me. We were just thinking about, his life and about the things he's learned. And he's had some rough and tumble times in his life. And he said something so beautiful to me the other day. I was actually apologizing to him for something that I thought I had done wrong as a parent years earlier. And he became very reflective about his life. And he looked at me and he said, well, Dad, the good news is I'm right on time. What he was trying to say to me was, Dad, I am who I am. I couldn't have got here any other way. And as for life milestones that I'm supposed to have achieved by now, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm right on time.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to have a kid say, I'm right on time.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we have different timetables for them.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into trouble. Well, Alicia, thank you so much. Author of the new book, Emotional Confidence, Enneagram One. Hooray.
Hooray,
We love
finally.
Enneagram Ones. Yeah, we love them ones. Tell people how can they learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. This has been such a great conversation. You can find more about me at aliciamichelle.com. So it's ALICIAMICHELLE. The book is Emotional Confidence. You can find it anywhere. And my podcast is The Christian Mindset Coach, if you'd like to listen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Anthony, I love you, buddy.
Love you, brother.
Thank you for this
Thanks
conversation,
for being with
guys.
us, Alicia. Yeah.
And everybody listening, may you have love, may you have joy, may you have peace, may you have healing, and may you have rest. Until next time, my friends, be well.